What is going on, guys? Hope you guys are doing well today. If you have Origin Access Premier, you can now download Battlefield 5 onto your PC. Can't load into the game quite yet, still gonna have to wait till November 9th at 5 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And unfortunately, EA Access won't get a preload for Xbox, so you have to wait to download that on November 9th. But today I want to bring up the question of if we'll see a return of the CTE, short for Community Test Environment, back in BF5. We saw a big part of that back in BF1, especially with it being introduced on the console platforms later down in Battlefield 1's life cycle. So when asked if there will be a CTE, David Sirlin replied, most likely yes, will work differently as non-premium, but it's a useful tool, especially for iteration. Now, he does say most likely yes, so before we go 100% into this, it's still not a definite guarantee or just a simple yes from David, but I get the feeling, for reasons that David does elaborate on a little bit more that I will show here in a second, we'll see the reasons why this should be returning in BF5. But before we get ahead of ourselves, I do want to mention how he says this will work differently as there is no premium. And what he's alluding to is the fact there's no premium pass in BF5, so no extra purchases coming to BF5 to get access to maps, weapons, new features in the game post-launch. The only thing you can purchase after post-launch are purely cosmetic items. Before, BF1 tied into the premium pass the CTE, so if you didn't have the pass, you wouldn't have access to the community test environment. Since that's all changed, like he says, will work differently as non-premium. How that will work exactly, like if there'll be a separate download dedicated for the CTE, or it's some addition to Battlefield 5's base game, I don't really know. All I know is it should be free. And if there's one thing David does make sure about, is if and when they do bring the CTE, that all platforms will be there, which is good, unlike last time in BF1 when the console side were brought later down in BF1's life cycle for the CTE. But moving on to the part where David says it's a useful tool, especially for iteration. And if there's one big complaint I hear the most from the community, which is a reasonable complaint, that is the CTE spoils the game and ruins the element of surprise. When this was brought up again to David, asking for more of an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, which would legally bind someone from releasing any of this gameplay footage until EA DICE says they could, David replied with, I think showing/testing early and then pull it to finish, map specifically, is a good approach. Some of the surprise will be kept. It really is a good way to ensure top level quality quicker though. So if we want lots of maps, we need to do this. Now when he says showing/testing early then pull it to finish, map specifically, what he's talking about is what we experienced later down in the life cycle of BF1 CTE, called the Whitebox Environment. And what you're seeing here is the CTE back in October of 2017 of Akibaba, in again this Whitebox Environment. Now I'm not sure if DICE is going to specifically go down this type of environment for all the CTEs, but this is what he's alluding to, I imagine, a very rough, bare bones draft of the map. So on one side you don't get the full version of the map, since he said it gets pulled after this and finished with all the texturing and new details. If you're looking closely, you'll see a lot of different layouts on the capture points that you don't see in the retail version of Akibaba that we get to play with today. But DICE gets the valuable telemetry and feedback from the community that is something they can't recreate in their studio. DICE is looking for the masses to come out and test their new content. Essentially, thousands of players is a resource DICE doesn't have in-house, and giving out those many NDAs isn't a feasible objective to that many players. So as a developer, you learn a lot when you allow that many players to test out your game. This again is where the telemetry plays a big role. The technical information they get for probably everything. Which team wins the majority of the time, which gun is used, which class is used the most, the list I bet goes on and on. This helps them grasp the objective experience to the subjective feedback that they get from the community. So when it's all tested out, they can decide if they get feedback from players who say, the allies always win on this map. They can look at their data and say, well, it shows only 52% of the time that happens. And though I don't see DICE dismissing your feedback, just because it doesn't align to their data, it helps them put things in perspective and, in David's words, ensure top level quality quicker, which in effect will bring out a lot more maps. Now, of course, this isn't the perfect solution to prevent new content from being spoiled. It is though for a good reason, again to bring out new maps, which for me, someone who loves Battlefield maps, I'm all for. We'll again see iterations of these maps, something DICE talked about in their last dev talk, where they mentioned how they reiterated our Twisted Steel map a lot, which is just the different variations DICE can make the map. Whether you need more cover here or there, or move a capture point around, or add or remove one. You see this again in the Akibaba clips I was showing, and even though that is, I'm sure, more for testing purposes, hopefully some of the Whitebox environment returns, so DICE gets what they need to bring out more content, while on the flip side not spoiling as much as they can. Because again, this is for the CTE, and strictly for testing purposes, so it isn't meant to be the full complete Battlefield experience you'll get in the base game, but a different type of experience, one that allows you to contribute back to the game you love. But feel free to let me know your thoughts on the CTE in the comments below. But that is it for you guys today. Again, I always appreciate you guys being here. I am Livin', and I'll catch you guys again later.